And now, while events are being held all over the country to mark 100 years of the Royal Air Force, one man has come up with his own poignant tribute to the last of the few.
The pictures I create are all focused on the concept of movement. So over the past few years, I've been at events such as the Olympics. Recently, I was artist resident at Windsor Castle. But the project I'm working on now is very different, because there's no action or no movement involved. I'm just focusing on the people, but they are very special people. My name is Jeremy Houghton, and I'm creating a picture of the last 4 surviving pilots from the Battle of Britain.
In 1940, the RAF miraculously defended our skies against the might of the German Luftwaffe. It was Winston Churchill who famously said, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few."
Today, only 4 of those fighter pilots are still around to tell the tale, and each one of them is now well into their 90s. My idea is to create a picture of them which I'm calling the last of the few. Today I'm working with Tim Elkington. He, funnily enough, lives pretty close to me, so he's agreed to come to my studio and sit for me whilst I do some sketching of him, on the agreement that I'll pick him up in my old vintage car.
3.5
litre, yeah. It's going to be quite tight in the back of the Bentley, because Tim's bringing 2 of his 4 children along for the ride.
Oh, that's warm.
You warm enough?
Fine,
Yeah. Was it, what, did you have a heater in your aeroplane?
You're joking.
No. Tim's got an incredible story. He joined the RAF in 1939 when he was just 19, and then a year later found himself flying Hurricanes in the Battle of Britain. When the war started, you were in your Hurricane for the first time. Were you aware that the Germans had many more aircraft than we did?
I was aware of nothing. Absolutely nothing. I wasn't awake when I was at school, so I was hardly awake when I joined the Air Force, and I didn't ask questions. No, I had no knowledge of what we were up against.
So when it came to flying a Hurricane, was it a useful weapon? Did it have much firepower?
When you boarded a Hurricane, you thought you had a wonderful warlike machine to use with your 8 machine guns. You weren't told that the armour of your enemy was such that it took one hell of a job to get through it and knock it down. And you only had 11 seconds of firing, and that can be very quickly gone.
You had 11 seconds of firing?
11 seconds. 303 ammunition, it was not a lot in trying to hit an enemy aircraft, unless it got in the right spot.
So grown-up Tim now, talking to young boy Tim, would there be any advice that you would give the young Tim in 1939?
Don't do it.
Using my sketches and photographs of all 4 surviving pilots, my challenge now is to put them in a picture together.
I want the 4 faces to be highlighted, and obviously the main focus in the foreground. I want the rest of the picture to be quite dark. You know, we're talking here about the darkest hour, and it was these guys who sort of brought us to the light in the darkest hour. So I want to have a dark sky in the background, maybe a suggestion of a small Spitfire in the distance. I haven't quite finished the picture yet. It's about 75% finished, but I've asked Tim to come and look at it, give me his feeling about it, and I'm also hoping that he's going to sign it. So, Tim, you've had your cup of tea. I'm now going to show you the picture.
Can't wait.
Come on. Help you up.
Oh, yes. Those are my chums.
Those are your chums. Yeah, they're the chaps. The last of the few.
I like the way we're drifting into the clouds, too.
I wanted the clouds, the skies, the heavens to be a part of it. I wanted all your fellow airmen who didn't survive to be acknowledged in this picture, acknowledged in the heavens.
Up in the skies. I like that bit.
This project has been such a privilege. You know, these guys are all very, very modest people, but for me, they very much are real-life heroes.
Wonderful picture. And Jeremy is here now, along with his finished drawing. It is remarkable.
It is.
Tell us, who are the other guys? Tim, we've met.
Tim, we've met on the left, and then next to Tim, you've got Geoffrey Wellham, who's the great Spitfire pilot. Also, Tom Neal flew Spitfires. And then on the right there, you've got Paul Farnes, who was the ace Hurricane pilot of his time.
And did they share some of their stories with you?
Amazing stories, and just being able to sit down with them, sketch them, have a cup of tea with them, and listen to what they went through in their stories was just fascinating. And, you know, all so young, so brave, so frightened. And Geoffrey Wellham there, he was so young that he had to ask his headmaster if he could leave school to join the RAF. And the headmaster said to him, "You're very good at cricket, can you stay next term, open the batting, and once you've done that, you can then join the RAF." Gives you an idea that they were still boys.
And so cold up there too.
And the temperatures, that's the one thing they all talk about, is they were freezing whilst up in there. There's no heating, and their clothes and things weren't equipped for it.
There were nearly 3,000 of them at the beginning, now just 4 of them left. And you've, as it were, brought them in that picture, using that pencil.
Well, one of the requests was to do this picture in the simple pencil. They didn't want an old portrait with sort of the medals on their chests, and they didn't want that sort of celebration. They wanted to be recognised as ordinary blokes, lucky blokes. That's what they call themselves. So here's one of the pencils. I chose to do it in a wax pencil because that's what they would have used when they were flying their planes to navigate, using it on the sort of plastic-coated maps. And also it's quite a good colour to sort of approach the heavenly aspect, the sort of darkest hour, the dark heavens, because they all wanted to acknowledge their friends who didn't fly back with them after the war.
And what's going to happen to this painting now?
This painting is going to be auctioned. There's a silent auction on my website, and all of the proceeds from the silent auction will go to the RAF cadets, and is basically raising money for the next generation of RAF men and women.
Oh, great cause.
Fab. Brilliant, Jeremy. Thank you so much for coming in.